Hello from me and Milo, who's decided to sit on me right as I get started. Today we're going to be chatting about one of my favourite topics, which is books. I am a self-confessed book nerd, so I don't read much fiction. I tend to read nothing but non-fiction, which a lot of my friends think is really weird, but it's what I like. So I wanted to share some of my favourite books with you today, and I have so many. I may need to do a part 2 because I gathered them all together and I was like, there's no way I can talk about all this in just one live. So they're going to be mainly focused on helping photographers, but a lot of them aren't actually related to photography at all. They're like mindset books or non-fiction, self-helpy books at times, loads of different genres, but they've all hugely helped my business in millions of ways. So without further ado, I'm just gonna grab from my pile and start. So the first one is You're a Badass, which is by Jen Sincero. I think that's how you say her name. I read this book probably about 3 years ago. It's, if you're into like any sort of hippie stuff, a little bit more to do with like manifestation and living your dream life, this one's really good. But it's also just really good if you have some big mindset blocks around pushing past your fears or limiting beliefs about what you can achieve in life. This was really good, and I've read it a few times, and it's full of like underlines, and I can literally go through and pick out my favorite parts in it. And yeah, highly recommend this book to everyone, whether you run a business or not. This is a great one to read. First one done. Right, second book. I'm not going to do this in any order, but this is You're Not Broke, You're Pre-Rich by Emily Bellet, which is, she is a French woman, but she lives in the UK, and this is a book all about money, and basically about how to streamline your finances, stay in control of your bank balance, and earn more money. And this is one of the best personal finance books that I've read ever. I've just realised I've forgotten one of my books that I would have mentioned to you, but I will mention it in passing in a second. If you need help managing your money or getting on top of your money, or just understanding how to save more money, budget more, start investing, if you have any debt and you need to get yourself out of debt, this is all really good for that. It's a fairly hefty one, but it's written specifically for anyone in the UK. I know that most books that I've found on money tend to be very US focused, which is fine. They can be very helpful nonetheless, but there are different like rules and stuff in the UK, and we have different kinds of accounts. So this one is UK focused, which is great. And it is basically a how-to guide of how to be good with your money and how to make more money and save it. And yeah, really good one for if you want to improve your financial health. Another book that I would recommend about money that I don't have on me, I think I lent it to a friend, that I mention all the time, is called Profit First. It is how I structure my money in my business. So this is very much a business focused book, so a financial business book, and it is a system that allows your business to always make a profit, no matter how much money you earn or from what point you earn any money. It will always give you a profit. So it is the book I recommend anyone who runs a business, who is self-employed or not, who runs a company. I think everyone should read Profit First. I will link it in the, I'm going to put this video on IGTV after, and I will link all the books in that video. This is one I read more recently. It's called I Will Teach You to Be Rich by Ramit Sethi. Don't know how you pronounce his name, but it was actually a book I bought a long time ago, and I think it's quite an old book. Again, it's another personal finance book, and this one's much more in depth about things like investing in the stock market and saving for the future. Again, more personal finance, not so much business focused, and he has a US edition and a UK edition, which is really, really handy because if you're in either of the countries, you can buy the one that's relevant to you and your situation. So yeah, this one's definitely more technical and goes into a lot more detail about investing than the You're Not Broke, You're Pre-Rich book did, and I learned a lot more about investing in the stock market and investing in general with this book than I did the other one. So if you want to learn more about investing, this is the one you want. Let's grab a different one. So Daring Greatly by Brené Brown. This one I read probably about 2 years ago, and it's one of those ones that I literally like highlighted and underlined to death. If I own a physical copy of a book, I make notes in the margins and I just write down like all the things that I kind of think of when I'm reading it. This one is about being vulnerable with people in general, and how when you open up and are more honest and a little bit more vulnerable about who you are, good things happen. So it's much more of a mindset focused book than any of the others, but I do think that it has helped me a lot in my business, in that I am able to be more open and a little bit less afraid of judgment or what people will think of me or what people will say. And this book has really helped me with my mindset when it comes to pitching and reaching out to brands and being brave, because it's all about having courage and just being brave to do something, and not always striving for perfection. I think that a lot of us, I'm not too much of a perfectionist, but I go through phases. If you are a big perfectionist and you struggle with perfectionism, this one is really good for overcoming that kind of fear. So Daring Greatly by Brené Brown. I've read a few of her other books as well, and she has a TED Talk on Netflix, which if you don't like reading but you like watching stuff, I do recommend her TED Talk. It is very good. Not her TED Talk, her Netflix show. She also has TED Talks, both. You can just Google her and she comes up with videos and stuff. She's very cool. This one, The 7 Spiritual Laws of Success by Deepak Chopra. Again, much more like mindset focused book, and it's very short. Like you could literally read it in a day if you wanted to, in an evening. The text is massive, so it's like a really easy book to read, but it's basically all about how to be successful and the things that you need to do and the things you need to understand about success. This is definitely more of a mindset book and a little bit more on the hippie side. A lot of my friends call me a bit of a hippie. I definitely do believe in, the power of the universe and mindset, and thinking positively will bring stuff to you. This is great if you're into anything like that. If you think all that stuff is absolute bollocks, you won't like this, because you'll just think, what is he talking about? But I love it, and it really helps with my mental health and having the drive to keep pushing when I'm not feeling that motivated to do stuff. I recently reread it, and yeah, it's a really lovely book, super easy to read, and it's quite positive and lovely to read it, so do recommend that one. This one is a classic on photography by Susan Sontag. It's a book I read when I was at uni, and this is obviously specifically photography focused. It's basically a bunch of short essays written by Susan Sontag. It's quite an old book. I wonder if I can find when it was published. 1977, so it's quite an old one. And it's interesting reading her perspective from the 70s to today and how photography has shifted and changed. This is not gonna like enrich your business particularly. I don't think you're gonna read this and have like loads of ideas for your business and like photography in general, but it's, if you are a photographer, sort of reading about the theory of photography is really, really interesting. And I have a bunch of highlighted passages in here, and I go back through this every once in a while if I'm feeling a little bit disconnected from the art of photography. I think that I in particular am very business minded, and I can kind of, if I go too far down the strategy and the business side of things, I lose touch with the creative and the arty side of it all. This helps bring me back to that in a way, and look beyond what photography just is, and get a bit more in the headspace of what it can be, and the messages that it brings, and the power that the images have behind them. So yeah, really good. Recommend that. Again, it's not a very big book, very easy to read, and even though, you know, it might sound like it's quite a heavy topic, it's very easy to read, and you could literally read like a couple of the essays in a go and then put it down and pick it up again however you wanted. So yeah, recommend that. How to Be a Productivity Ninja. I read this book about 2 years ago during a Christmas period. I remember reading it on the beach, so it feels like really gross and dusty and icky. Hi. And everyone always asks me how I stay so productive and organized, and I definitely learned some stuff and some like techniques from reading this book about productivity. So if you are struggling with systems and getting yourself organized and structuring your week and your day, one thing I really remember that was really, really useful and that I've used throughout my time since I've read this is the idea of like brain dumping everything into one place. He uses a lot of electronic systems to create ideas banks, and I'm someone who's constantly getting ideas, and I used to just throw them into random notebooks and I would end up with just ideas scattered around all over the place, whereas now, since reading this, I have one big place where I just dump all my ideas, and I got that idea from this. There's so much more into it as well, and as you can see, I've got post-it notes in here, and it's quite a hefty book. Like, it's pretty hardcore, but if you're into productivity or you need help with your productivity, definitely grab this. It's great, really, really good. Okay, we're getting through them quickly, but I hope they're interesting. How to Style Your Brand by Fiona Humberstone. I have banged on about this book for years. Like, if you've been following me a long time, you know that I have been shouting about this book for a long time. I mean, look at all the post-it notes. I have used this to death. If you are either starting up your business and you've never really understood branding, or you're looking to pivot your business a bit, or you want to just get better at your branding and improve your branding of your business, you need this book. Like, you need it. Not only is it stunning, like the whole thing visually is just, it's a joy to look through. I absolutely love her process. You could work through this entire book step by step and build up your branding. I've used this countless times to, over the years, build up my brand. I recently had a bit of a rebrand. You may have noticed I've got a new logo, and I've got new colours and new fonts and my whole new website. Anna and I use the system in this basically to build up that brand. She has another book called Brand Brilliance, which is on my bookshelf here, but that one is much more in depth and much bigger and much more expensive. So I always recommend this to anyone just starting out. It's fabulous. I rate this so much, and everything that Fiona does, actually, I rate. She's a great person to follow online. She does online courses as well, and I've been to a few of her like networking events, which are really nice, and I'm actually listed as one of her top photographers, which is really nice. She's got like a little list of photographers that you can download if you're looking for a photographer, and she's very kindly included me in that, so that's very nice. So yeah, highly rate that one. Running a Successful Photography Business by Lisa Pritchard. So if you don't know who Lisa Pritchard is, she runs a photo agency in London, and I bought this book probably about 2 years ago, and this is the most practical book that I have ever read to do with commercial photography. This is not for someone wanting to run a wedding business or a portrait business or anything. This is specifically written for commercial photographers. So if you're a fashion photographer like me, it's fabulous. She kind of goes into all the aspects of the industry that you would ever wanted to have topic covered on. She goes over licensing, she goes over pitching, she goes over marketing yourself, she goes over finding an agent, competitions, like everything you could ever want. It's really, really good. I think it's something that I recommend any commercial photographer buys and just has handy, even if you don't read it through cover to cover. If you ever get a question or you have something that you're like, oh, how do I do this? I definitely go back to this quite a lot, and I will read sections that I need at the time. She goes over pricing as well. She's got examples of like model releases in here. Like, look, we've got model release, property releases, which are really useful. Like examples of terms and conditions. So there's loads in here. It's totally worth it. There's also like at the back, she's got a whole list of address books for great websites that could be useful, photography directories. Like it's a really, really handy book to have if you're a commercial photographer. So if you haven't got it already, hop on Amazon and grab it. She has got another one called Setting Up a Successful Photography Business. I haven't read that one. I think it's more for beginners, so I can't comment on that one, but this one, the purple one, is really good. The other one is yellow. Start with Why by Simon Sinek. Read this years ago. Funny enough, I have based this week's newsletter on this book. So if you are signed up to my newsletter, every week on Saturday I send out a newsletter to photographers themed on different topics, and they're always helpful, like basically blog posts, but direct to your inbox. And this book is all about getting to the focus of why we do what we do instead of just what and how we do it. There's a great video online of Simon talking and explaining this, which obviously the book goes into so much more depth, and I definitely absorb information better if I read it than if I just watch something. And basically, I'm just going to read the back for you, because why are some people and organisations more inventive, pioneering and successful than others, and why are they able to repeat their success again and again? Because in business, it doesn't matter what you do, it matters why you do it. And that is so true. Like, if you don't understand why you're a photographer or why you're in business, you're going to have a really hard time convincing people to hire you to do their stuff, because you're not going to be in tune enough with what it is that you do and why you do it. When you really are in tune with your why, it just shifts so much for you. Or again, much more of a mindset book. There is a whole book he's done with exercises on like how to find out what your why is and how to get that across to people, and how to communicate that either on social media or on your website or when you're speaking to people, which is very helpful. So yeah, highly recommend Start With Why. Definitely changed my life. I'm going to leave that one to last because that's my favourite one. So these two I'm going to put together because they're by the same author and they're both great. So this one, the first one is Steal Like an Artist by Austin Kleon, and his second one is called Keep Going, again by Austin Kleon. He has a third one that I don't own and haven't read, so I can't comment on that one. But this is the first one I got, and it's basically all about how to get inspired by other art and use it to create your own art. And it's kind of like reading an essay, but in a book, very visualized form. And I love it. You can read this in an afternoon, an evening if you wanted to. And it's just so good for helping you move past any creative blocks. He kind of talks about how, as photographers, everything's been done, but nothing's been done by you. And because of our individual experiences in life and the way that we experience stuff, our perspectives are going to be different no matter what. So the spin on stuff that we put is going to be different. So he basically just, it's a way to move past any creative blocks, which is fabulous. And we all get creative blocks. So yeah, highly recommend that one. And then the Keep Going one is if you are getting to a point where you're feeling frustrated or like you can't push past something, or you're lacking motivation, or you're feeling just down about your work, this one is great. I actually bought this right at the start of the lockdown. I think I ordered it before I knew we were going into lockdown, and it was so useful for me when I was kind of feeling a bit despaired about the situation of the world, and I was like, oh my god, what's gonna happen with the virus? How are we all gonna get through this? This book really helped. Again, same format, like super easy to read, really quick, very inspiring, very visual if you don't like reading very much but you want to try a book that I recommend. This one is super visual and great. So yeah, these two are great. Okay, and the last one I want to mention is a very old book, but it's called Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway, by Susan Jeffers. I read this last year and it completely shifted something for me. In summary, when we are afraid of something, we are going to feel that fear until you actually do the thing. And it's the fear of doing the thing that is scarier than the actual thing. So when I understood that, I don't think I've explained that very well, but if you struggle with anything because you're afraid, which is something I struggle with in both my work and my personal life, I go back to this all the time, because if I sit back and read a few passages and remind myself that the fear I'm feeling will be there forever until I actually take action and do the thing I'm afraid of, the fear won't go away. And this is one of the best books, like I said, for both business and for life. It really, really changed my life. I read it on my Kindle and then bought it in physical form. I think I bought it secondhand on Amazon, because I was like, I need this book in my hands. I can't just have it on my Kindle electronically. It has to be something I own and physically can pick up and read, because I don't love my Kindle as much as I do love physical books. So yeah, tips for buying books, actually, like I just mentioned. If you go on Amazon and you want to buy a book, any of the books I've mentioned or anything else, try and check the second-hand books first, because the amount of times I've found books that I want to read for like a third of the price or half price or whatever, quite a good discount, because I've checked the second-hand section. Oh my god, life-changing. Often they take a little bit longer to arrive, so you can't be in a rush or like want it next day like you often will with Amazon, but it's a really great way of saving money. If you if you're not too bothered about physical books, I do highly rate the Kindle. I have a Kindle, a small, really simple one. I didn't buy anything fancy. I got it 2 years ago, before a trip. We were going on safari, and yeah, really, really useful. So I highly recommend buying a Kindle if you haven't got one, because it means that you can buy books, and they're cheaper on Kindle as well than buying them printed, and you are saving paper, which is quite nice. So yeah, that is my spiel about books. Like I said, I have loads more that I want to talk about, but I didn't want to bang on for too long. So if you would like me to do a part 2, let me know. If you have any questions before I head off, let me know. Matea just said, I read Setting Up a Successful Photography Business by Lisa Pritchard and can confirm it's great if you're just starting out. Covers pretty much everything. Yeah, true. Like, that book is fabulous. So if you haven't got that and you want to run a successful photography business, then I highly recommend the Lisa Pritchard book. It's great. Obviously, nothing I have shared here has been very technical, because I don't have very many technical photography books, because I don't really like reading them. I find them very boring. So if you have any technical books that you think are good, let me know and I will maybe check them out. I'm glad it's been useful. I see a few comments coming through, so that's really nice. I'm glad that you guys enjoyed it. Okay, I'm gonna head off and put my books away because I've got them all off my bookshelf and made a big mess. And I will probably see you soon for maybe a part 2, and I have some I've got some lives planned coming up about different topics, which will be very fun as well. And if you missed this, if you missed this, you won't be watching it right now, so you'd just be watching on ITV. So I will see you very soon. Bye!